unbelievably simple to grow, and you'll find that homegrown carrots taste so much better than those you'll find in your local store. There are loads of different types available as well.
Yeah, essentially the varieties can be split into 3 main groups, all of which you can find at your local store. First up are intermediate varieties, a traditional looking main crop carrot, slim, tapered to a point, the perfect all-rounder. Next are the long types, which if you have a deep stone-free soil will grow to a foot or more. These are late season carrots and will mature in summer or early autumn.
Now most carrots like a sandy, stone-free soil. Otherwise you often get those kind of comedy carrots that we all know and love. However, if you haven't got the perfect soil, the answer is to grow the third group of carrots, and that's these. These are little sort of finger carrots, as I call them, and these are fantastic for beginner gardeners. They mature quickly early in the season, they're ideal for containers, and children love them. When it comes to sowing, first up, you need to dig over the soil, and then, using the back of the fork, just break up any large clods of soil. Afterwards, you then go over with a garden rake like Ian's doing here, just to get a nice level finish to the soil. And you want a finish, or a tilth, which ultimately resembles a sort of mixture of small marbles and breadcrumbs. Tempting as it may be, don't dig in lots of organic matter at this point, because that often encourages the carrots to fork and deform.
If your soil is heavy or not very sandy, what you can do is dig in some washed sharp sand or washed silver sand. Don't use building sand, as it contains things that are not suitable for growing.
You sow carrot seeds in little trenches called drills, and you space each drill about 6 to 8 inches apart, although of course it does depend on what you find on the packet. Depth-wise, don't go in more than ½ an inch. To make your drills, and to make them nice and straight, just use an old board, a scaffold board or an old deck board in this case, and with a bamboo cane, just run alongside like this. And hey presto, an instant straight line drill. The reason you sow your seeds into drills rather than just, well, broadcasting it willy-nilly is that it's much easier to spot what's a weed and what's not.
Top tip, carrot seeds are very small. So what I do is I put the carrot seeds into a pot and I mix the pinch of silver sand, which helps me actually see where I'm sowing them. And you sow the sand and the seed into the drill.
After sowing, just gently pull a little soil over the top, and then water well with a fine rose, not a really big one because you don't want to blow the tiny seeds out of the drill. And then of course you need to go in and label, and pop on the label the name of the plant and the date of sowing. When the young seedlings emerge, you'll need to go in and thin them out, unless of course you sowed very thinly in the first place. Now the reason for thinning is basically, well, overcrowding will leave you with lots of small carrots, and you might encourage the carrot fly. More on that later. All you do is simply go in and with your thumb and forefinger just remove those carrots which are just too close together, and you want to aim basically so the carrots are spaced apart to whatever it says on the packet. And then once you're happy, you just burn or chuck away your thinnings. And why do you burn or chuck them away? Well, that's to avoid carrot fly. Now, I couldn't talk about growing carrots without talking about the carrot fly, which is the biggest pest of carrots, and it also attacks parsley, and if you're unlucky, parsnips too. Fortunately, it's a doddle to control though, you just need to think ahead. Now the way that the carrot fly works is that the female flies along the ground, just above the ground, and is attracted to the carrots because of the smell of the carrots. She comes along and she'll lay an egg at the top of the carrot, just below the bottom of the foliage there, and then the egg will turn into a larvae, the larvae will burrow into the carrot, and eventually rots will set in, which of course spoils the crop. But all you need to do is to go in mid to late March and cover your crop with this frost fleece, horticultural fleece, or Enviromesh, and you'll find all three products in your local store. You simply pop it over the top, peg it down, and the way it works is basically that water and light can still get to the crop, but of course the carrot fly female can't. Now, I would leave this on as a permanent cover pretty much right the way through to August so that your crop stays carrot fly free. The other technique, which is really common, is to erect a low barrier around your crop. You simply pop in 4 canes in a square, and then you simply wrap the canes around the outside, not over the crop, with your fleece, pegging it down at the ground so that the fly, which of course is flying along at ground level, can't penetrate. And it doesn't need to be higher than 3 foot because the fly doesn't fly higher than 3 foot. There are some other things that you can also do to minimise attacks. Don't just leave the thinnings, those seedlings you removed, just lying around. You need to burn them or discard them in the rubbish because of course the smell will attract the fly. There are a number of disease-resistant carrots that you can buy, and it will say so clearly on the pack, so seek out these if you find that carrot fly is a problem. And last of all, you could try something called companion planting, which is basically growing different crops together, each one benefiting the other. And in the case of carrots, if you alternate the rows with onions, the pungent smell of the onions will confuse the carrot fly and it won't know that the carrots are actually there. For an early crop, so baby carrots, in, well, late March and April, pretty much all the way through to July. And I like to sow, well, a row every 2 weeks or so that I've got a continually fresh supply always coming on. For main crop carrots, those which resemble a long tapered carrot, sow between April and say June time, pretty much for harvesting in late summer, you know, that's going to be September or October.
Yeah, and start pulling out baby carrots as soon as they're big enough, which will be around June or July. But be sure to leave the rest to keep on growing.
Carrots actually store best in the ground, so only remove them when you want to eat them. But, of course, come mid to late autumn when the weather really gets wet, you will need to go in and dig them all up, because otherwise they'll rot.
Yeah. To store your carrots, what you need to do is take off any excess dirt and let them dry off. Don't wash them, they store better left dirty. Store in a dark place, and if they are showing any signs of rot, remove them.
For more advice on growing your own fruit and vegetables and other general gardening tips, check out the links at the end of this film.